Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another Paleo Revived release, and yes, they've got another really cool species out, as this time we have the Babiasaurus. Now, I don't know for sure if I've said the name of that species correctly because I've heard it pronounced two different ways over the years. I've heard it either Beipiaosaurus or Beipiaosaurus. I don't know for sure which one is the correct way to pronounce the name. So I've always just said Babiasaurus, so hopefully that's the correct way. But you can see, again, very cool species. Definitely another fun one to enter the Paleo Revived line. This is another figure that is a little bit iffy as far as its balance because, again, it's got these nice long arms here in the front that kind of pull it forward. So it's not the most perfectly balanced figure, but it is still a I knocked him over. A super, super cool species choice. Definitely excited to see this one, again, created by Dino Mac, and again, another very, very nice looking figure. Like I said in the last few reviews, I feel like they are just improving non-stop when it comes to these new figures, and this one, again, is, I would say, another pretty good example of that. So if we start up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt looks really good. We've got the nostrils sculpted out. You can see a nice beak for the dinosaur. The mouth is sculpted in an open position. We can see the tongue and everything there for the inside of the mouth, which looks really good. It's just that there's no point in even trying to get in there to really see the detail. You can see the head sculpt there within my finger is really quite small, so it's going to be pretty impossible. The coloration, by the way, of this one is loosely based on the Isle version of this species. I felt like that coloration looked really cool, so I kind of replicated it, but added my own personal touch. And I did actually give the two of them a little difference because this one is a little bit brighter, this one's a little bit more of a lighter tone, and I tried to kind of give it the look of like a male and female. But you can see, again, the head sculpt looks really nice, or you could if my camera would focus. There we go. You've got some nice feather detail as you begin to move further back into the head. You've got a little bit of like a slight crest of feathers there sticking off of the top of the head right there of the dinosaur, which looks really cool. As you begin to move down through the course of the neck, you see the feather detail looking really nice. Again, quite scruffy kind of looking on the back of the neck right there. Definitely, I would say, realistic looking for sure. As we continue to move down, you can see the throat and everything here on the underside of the neck of the dinosaur. As we lead down a little bit further, you can see the arm kind of outstretched slightly away from the body, kind of almost in, again, that classic Therizinosaur sort of a look, because I feel like that's just a nice natural look for the dinosaur. But at the same time, again, even though it has that neutral look, it has that impressive look to it with the positioning of the arms. But as you move down into the arms, you see the feather detail get a little bit more fine leading down, especially as you lead down into the hands. And then you, of course, have those fingernails that look really quite nice. The claws looking very impressive on our Babiasaurus. And as we move back up, you can see, again, even though the feathers are obviously going to obscure a lot of the detail of the body, you can kind of make out the spinal column moving along the back of the dinosaur. As you lead down, you can also sort of make out the hip bone there. Leading down into the leg, again, the musculature as far as the way it would normally be defined is definitely going to be hidden underneath the feathers, and Dino Mac has not given this any sort of like a false sense of musculature like some people do. You'll sometimes see like the muscles somehow tensing even still through the feathers, but that's not something I would expect to actually see, even though the feathers are somewhat fine as you move down through the course of the leg. I think Dino Mac has perfectly portrayed the way the musculature would look underneath the feathers here with this figure. And as you move down into the foot sculpt, you can see we return back to a nice skin textured look leading down. You can see the toes look, again, oh my goodness, nice and bird-like. Let's just like go to the front. Yep, that's not going to work either. It's continuously trying to focus on the claws of the figure. But you can see anyway, the foot sculpt looks nice and kind of bird-like and everything. The skin texture also looks quite nice. And as you lead out into the tail, you can see some nice curvatures to the tail from this side. But when you look at it from up above, the curvatures aren't quite as like obvious because it's basically curving up and down as the tail moves out from up above. It looks kind of like a neutral look. But you can see again the nice feather detail and the quite impressive looking tail for the dinosaur from over there. And then, of course, once you turn it around, you're going to see pretty much the same thing from both sides. Again, it's not really going to differ from side to side as far as this figure goes. Now, this is exactly the same sculpt. There is no difference when it comes to one figure to the other. Again, so no worries as far as this one looking different, but I just kind of wanted to show this one off to show you guys that I had painted this one out to just look, in my opinion, a little bit more female-ish than the other one, whereas the other one was more, in my opinion, of like the male. I tried to give it just a little bit of flashiness with like some slight hints of blues and stuff on this one, just to add a bit of a flashier look. And this one, again, having more of like a more dull grayish coloration, which in my opinion would look more female. One thing though, I actually broke the claw off while I was moving it around like an idiot, so I ended up painting it out to look like it's actually a broken off claw. I gave it that kind of bloody look and everything right there, so that it looks like, again, it broke the claw off, which I'm sure is something that would have happened as this dinosaur was alive. And another thing that's really fun is it also kind of sets this one apart from this one, so now there is a little bit of a difference between the two, which I also really quite like. So the fact that I have this one in perfect shape and the fact that this one is missing its claw actually is really cool, because again, it adds a little difference between the two. As far as a size goes, it's definitely not a big figure. So for a length from the tail to the snout, you are looking at a little over 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of that crest of feathers, just shy of 2.5 inches, or pretty much 6 centimeters on the dot. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Paleo Revived Babiasaurus. And you can see again that this figure is definitely quite small. And that's kind of the route I've gone here when it comes to the reviews. I started out with some of the smaller stuff like the Baryonyx, the Coelophysis, now the Babiasaurus, just kind of getting some of the smaller species out of the way before we move on to some of the larger ones, because there are larger species with articulation in this line as well. But you can see again, these are definitely quite small. You can also see size-wise what they look like next to a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus, obviously continuing to be a good bit smaller. We've also got a comparison next to the Paleo Revived Baryonyx, the mechanical arm Baryonyx, and you can see again that they are definitely a little bit smaller than that figure. Now, when it comes to this species, I really don't have any other figures of it outside of the Safari Ltd one. They're the only other company that I can even think of that's made this species at some point, but unfortunately, that figure is definitely going to be a whole lot bigger than this one, so I don't think it would compare well with it, so there's not much of a need to bring that one in. But for one final comparison, here is a Mattel and Captives minifigure here next to the Beipiaosaurus from Paleo Revived, helping to give you one final idea of the size and showing you that, again, they are definitely quite small. So these Dino Mike Mac Paleo Revived Beipiaosaurus figures are also really nice, just like everything that they have produced so far, honestly. Like, I feel like Dino Mike Mac is doing such a great job of bringing some super obscure species into his line and just giving us, you know, a lot of really cool stuff that we otherwise don't often get. He's definitely provided us with some super cool species since the very first wave of Paleo Revived, you know, all the way back with species like Homalocephalae and even the Oviraptor, which we don't really get very often, all the way up until now, again, with the Beipiaosaurus. And I think sculpt-wise, it looks really nice. Definitely has a pretty cool-looking design overall, as well as some very nice, impressive, fine detail. The feather detail specifically looks really cool. We, of course, have that sort of standard kind of neutral pose for it, like we often get for these figures, which I really quite like. Again, unless you get the articulated ones, which, of course, do have mobility and everything to them, but I like the neutral pose, honestly. It's, again, very maquette-like, but you can see the pose again. Although neutral, of course, looking maquette-like, could definitely be the type of pose you would see on this dinosaur if it were just kind of standing around, kind of observing the landscape or something. The coloration and paint apps, of course, were done by me. No need for yours to look like mine. You can paint it up any way you would want. That's really up to you. I, again, based mine slightly off of the Isle version, but not exactly. Just kind of like took that coloration and then kind of went with it and give it my own personal touch. And one of the coolest parts about this is you can actually purchase these from Dino Mike Mag to get both of these that you would see, 2 of them for $6. So you get 2 dinosaurs for $6. Again, the Paleo Revived figures are always so nice and reasonably priced. That's one of the many reasons why I love this line. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can check this out again on Dino Mike Mag's store, so you can purchase it on there. And again, grab yourself this incredibly cool figure, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.